Again, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Angela Brooks. I'm the Manager of Global Marketing at DISYS, and I want to thank you for joining our webinar today. We actually have a couple of speakers, and just so everyone knows, we're talking today about enterprise cloud strategies, migrating applications to the cloud. Again, thanks for joining. We'll be talking about building a cloud strategy for your company, as well as leveraging actual benefits of the cloud, including auto-scaling. Our two presenters today are both passionate about the cloud. We have with us Ahmar Abbas from DISYS. He's our Vice President of Global Services. As well, we have Jinesh Varia from Amazon Web Services. He's a technology evangelist. Just a few words about Ahmar and Jinesh. Ahmar is leveraging the cloud to deliver global services for DISYS' global customers. He's also the author of Grid Computing, a practical guide to technology and applications, and has frequently been quoted in publications such as Business Week, Red Herring, CIO, and other technology magazines. Jinesh focuses on cloud architectures and businesses, and helps businesses benefit from elasticity and scalability that the cloud offers to drive down costs. We're lucky to have both of them with us today, and thanks so much for joining. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. We will take questions at the end in a Q&A session, but you can put questions in using your questions pane throughout the seminar, and we will see them throughout the webinar. We will see them. So without further delay, I'd like to pass the speaking to Jinesh. Thanks so much, Jinesh, for leading the seminar with us today.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I'm Jinesh. I'm on the technology evangelism team at Amazon Web Services, and I'm really very excited today to be here to kind of discuss about enterprise cloud strategies and kind of talk about what's happening in the industry today and how we are seeing the world, as well as share some of the trends and technology strategies that enterprises are using when they migrate to the cloud. It's cloud. As most of you know, the cloud that exists 2 years ago is very different than cloud that exists today, and it will be very different than cloud that will exist 2 years from now. It's dramatically changing. We are seeing a breakneck speed innovation, and we are seeing great adoption in our services, and there are customers today in 190 countries leveraging AWS, Amazon Web Services cloud offerings. And you can see that these are now more household names that you're seeing, like running, like for example, Netflix and NASDAQ and Eli Lilly and Adobe, like PBS, all of them leveraging the cloud in a variety of different ways. We like to have our numbers speak our success, and it's extremely exciting to be here at this particular time, because you're seeing lots of growth. For example, Amazon Simple Storage Service, one of our storage offerings, is growing at more than 200%. This is 566 billion objects. Objects are essentially just an entity that gets stored on our storage service. Today there are 566 billion objects, and this is just Q3. We haven't really have numbers for Q4 yet. But as you can see, it's growing at a really fast pace. Also, other thing which I am really very proud about from the technology architecture side, these services are really built to scale. Amazon S3 is peaking consistently at 370,000 transactions per second. The other thing which I really like about Amazon Web Services and its growth is how fast we are able to add capacity to meet our demand, and how fast the cloud is growing as well. Each day Amazon Web Services is adding equivalent server capacity, that is storage, compute, etc., to power Amazon when it was a global 2.76 billion enterprise company in the year of 2000. So essentially 5 days from now, it will be adding equivalent capacity, which is 5 times now $2.76 billion industry that capacity that we would need to run that particular business. As you can see, it's growing extremely fast, and and the services and the strategies are changing quite rapidly. So cloud is really changing how we do business today. It is touching every single IT stakeholder, right from the developer to the IT pro to the CIO. And today, cloud is really in every CIO's roadmap, and understanding how you can build, cloud and implement some of the cloud architectures in an innovative way. And these benefits that I really these benefits are really something that truly differentiates what from what it exists, what IT industry has had in the past. With cloud, you don't have to pay any upfront or capital expense. There is no capital expenditure. Everything is operating expenditure, and there is low operating expenditure because you have an ability to scale up and scale down based on your needs. You only pay for what you use, and you have a self-service infrastructure, an API-driven infrastructure where you can simply instantiate compute resources and storage resources through web service interfaces or command line calls. You don't have to call anybody to get infrastructure. You don't have to fill up any forms or procurement forms and wait for that infrastructure to be provisioned and procured. You get that infrastructure, whether it's computer storage or network, right when you click a button. It's easily able to scale up and scale down. I'm going to share lots of stories today that will discuss how some of the customers are taking advantage of it. And one of the most important characteristics of the cloud, or the benefit that the cloud really provides to the enterprises, is agility. It really improves, or I would say it reduces the time to market so that you can quickly launch your products when not having to worry about hardware, storage, and all the infrastructure, powering, cooling, network management, and so forth. So it's really, because of these key benefits, we are seeing a great adoption in Amazon Web Services and all over. Today, Amazon is having 6 regions, 4 in the United States, 1 in Europe, 1 in, 7 public regions. 1 is the government cloud region, which is only for U.S. persons only. We have 1 in Japan and 1 in Singapore, and we have several edge locations for our content delivery network, which will edge cache static content around the world. We are continuously investing in getting these regions in different parts of the world so that companies can go global with the global infrastructure, as well as you can take advantage of the local infrastructure, which will use the same APIs and same infrastructure, same tools. So let's understand quickly what is Amazon Web Services and what are some of the services that Amazon Web Services is offering. On the Amazon provides global physical infrastructure, and on the bottom there's the black block. It consists of regions, as I mentioned. There are 7 regions, 6 public, and the 7th one, the Gov Cloud, especially for government applications. Each region consists of multiple availability zones. Availability zones are logical data centers that don't share the same powering, cooling, flood panels, port lines. So these are essentially fault-tolerant zones. And there are edge locations, as you can see and as you saw in the earlier slide. These are static content edge locations so that you can edge cache the static content around the world. On the top of that infrastructure, we have a variety of different core infrastructure services, or you can say foundation services. I categorize them into compute, storage, network, and database. Amazon EC2, which stands for Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, gives you access to virtualized servers in the cloud. You have complete control of your environment. You spin up number of instances, which are essentially just virtual servers, and you can create Amazon machine images with just one click. By creating Amazon machine images, you can spin up and clone your entire network stack and operating system stack as well as your application stack so that you can create a variety of different instances pre-configured by that Amazon machine image. I'm going to talk a little bit about auto-scaling later. But Amazon storage, there are a variety of different storage services. Amazon S3 is our distributed redundant data store. Amazon EBS is just like any other hard drive in the sky. You create a volume, you mount that volume onto an EC2 instance. This storage is persistent storage. Amazon VPC, I'm going to talk about that in detail in a few minutes. It stands for Virtual Private Cloud. It's a network isolation layer that will map your network, corporate network, with that of the cloud so that you can leverage your data center. You can leverage cloud as an extension of your data center. ELB is our Elastic Load Balancing service, which will provide you elastic load balancers that you can spin up and have and distribute your traffic across multiple EC2 instances. Likewise, there is a DNS service, Amazon Route 53, as well as a Direct Connect, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Database, we have Amazon Relational Database Service, which is a managed MySQL and Oracle offering. It allows you to create simple databases and highly complex database architectures at the same time. And you can create high availability environments using MySQL, all programmatically. You can, the beauty and the cool thing about Amazon RDS is with just one click, you can actually add more capacity or vertically scale up from a small server to a large server with just one click or one command line call. It manages the infrastructure for you, so it also manages the patching and other database administration tasks that's typically when you are managing a database. Amazon Elastic Cache is our in-memory database, in-memory storage, just like Memcached, and you can take advantage of these services to build a highly available and highly performant application. We have several high-level building block services, which is doing specific things for specific tasks. Like if you have lots of log processing and if you have lots of data that you want to crunch using open source as a framework called Hadoop, you can take advantage of Amazon Elastic MapReduce, which is a hosted Hadoop stack available, highly optimized to run on compute and storage. We have several enterprise offerings which will allow you to send massive data sets to Amazon Web Services using Amazon Import-Export service, as well as if you run VMware and you would like to port or migrate your existing applications that are running on VMware, you can move that to the AWS Cloud using VM Import and Export services. We have content delivery service. Likewise, there are several other services which are doing specific things like queuing, which is Amazon Simple Queue service, notifications, which will notify you on email, HTTP, or SMS, and that is done by Amazon Simple Notification service. And we have a bulk email transaction service, which will help you send large amounts of emails and ensure deliverability of your emails. We understand that there are several enterprise customers who are for them it's extremely important to have the identity and access management and the security features that it's needed. Security is not an optional thing. It is baked into each and every single service here. So I'm going to talk about in detail about security because I believe lots of people might have questions around it. But one thing which I'd like to call out here is the Identity and Access Management Service called IAM. This allows you to create multiple users within a single account and give granular access to each of that user, saying that Bob has access to start EC2 instances but not terminate EC2 instances, while Alice has access to this part of the S3 bucket and has only read-only access. So you can provide granular access to each of the users within your organization. Likewise, there is authorization. You can have federated authorization and connect your LDAP repositories and Active Directory repositories to that of the cloud as well. Every service needs to be monitored. So we have Amazon Cloud Watch, which provides you the visibility that you need for your cloud resources that you spin up. For example, CloudWatch will give you characteristic of how much CPU utilization of each of your EC2 servers. We have several different ways in which you can actually do automation and leverage this infrastructure with simple tools and services. Like AWS Cloud Formation is a simple provisioning engine. You specify all your cloud resources such as load balancers, database servers, web servers, application servers, storage, etc. in a simple JSON template, and then pass it on to CloudFormation engine, and it will provision and manage that infrastructure for you. So it's very easy for you to get started by simply creating the entire application topology with a single JSON file. Again, and then there are a variety of different ways you can access these services, and there are tools available to access all of these services. For example, there are libraries and SDKs, there's web interfaces, management consoles. I will talk about it in a little bit detail later. There are tools and development tools, as well as there are command line interfaces so that you can integrate it with your existing applications. This is the complete buffet of what Amazon is offering, and you can pick and choose the services that you like. You don't have to use all the services if it doesn't fit your requirements. But there are a few basic things about these services, that every service has an API. Every service either inherently scales or gives you an option to quickly scale so that you have a high scalable environment. At the same time, the most important is every single service is pay as you go. You don't have to pay upfront. There are no commitments or contracts. You quickly launch and you only pay for what you use. So one thing which I would like to call out is really the flexibility. Flexibility and the power of choice. And flexibility is really the key here, and one of my first takeaways also. You can use any programming model, any language, any operating system, or any database on EC2. You can run these services in any combination or use it as individually if you like. You can pay as much or as little and only pay for what you have used, and you can take advantage of your existing system management tools, which is extremely important when it comes to enterprise audience, these are really the key differentiators of Amazon Web Services, that Amazon provides infrastructure as a service, as well as all the automation required to run highly massive mission-critical applications in the cloud. And I'm going to share lots of stories with you to talk about it. And these buffet of services, or the Amazon Web Services cloud platform, is not just about our services. It's really the entire ecosystem behind it. It has the infrastructure as well as all these different services, all these different all these service providers are really, all these solution providers are providing their solutions and software on the top of AWS and making it a rich cloud ecosystem. For example, we understand that to run mission-critical enterprise applications, it's very important to run enterprise software. And today, you can run any of these software completely certified and in a pay-as-you-go license model available in AWS. For example, you can spin up an Oracle 11g database and bring your own license and run it in the cloud, and which will be supported by Amazon as well as Oracle. At the same time, you can run a variety of different Windows Server applications from Microsoft and take advantage of that, like Microsoft SharePoint, for example. I'm going to share a story around that as well. So flexibility is really the key, and this is my first takeaway, that when you choose a cloud vendor, it's extremely important that you have the flexibility, and Amazon Web Services provides you the flexibility that you need. So let's see how it's easy to get started, and then I will talk about different trends that I see in cloud adoption today within the enterprise. So for getting started, essentially you simply have, you can create an EC2 instance, a server, a virtual server in the cloud within just a few minutes. All you have to do is click on the sign up for EC2 button, put in your credit card details, and then you will see a login screen. You log in, and you will log into our web management console. This particular console is your Elastic Data Center dashboard. You can see a number of EC2 instances, your volumes, your storage, your databases, all of that in this one single view. In this scenario, I'm going to talk about Amazon EC2 specifically. So you click on the Launch Instance button, and you will get a screen which will show you all the different Amazon machine images that are available today. As I mentioned earlier, Amazon machine images are pre-configured, pre-compressed, freeze file systems. So it gives you an opportunity to simply pre-configure your stack with the configuration that you need, and then clone your infrastructure accordingly, or your instances. So you can select number of EC2 instance types based on your configuration, your RAM, your number of cores, the storage that you need, the operating system that you need in the next screen, and then you will be able to launch these Amazon machine images on EC2 instances. And as you can see, I have a number of EC2 instances running right now. Each EC2 instance gets a DNS that you can use to log in, and if it's a Windows terminal, you can log in and directly to a remote desktop using the remote desktop, or you can putty into a Linux terminal. So you have complete control of your environment. You have complete root level access to that instance, and you can take advantage of the flexibility that it provides. Also, I would like to call out, Amazon offers to do new customers a free tier, so you will not be charged until a certain amount of usage. So I highly recommend you to take advantage of these services and this free tier offering to quickly get started. So this comes to my first trend that I would like to talk about, like how are enterprises leveraging the cloud today? And as I talk to lots of different enterprise customers and CIOs, I I'm seeing that enterprises are using the cloud as an extension of their existing data center. So essentially, they have their corporate data center. They have already made lots of investments on the corporate data center. They create within the Amazon Web Services cloud what we call the VPC environment, or VPC cloud. This is a network isolation layer which allows you to bridge between your corporate data center and that of the cloud, so that you can have the same IP address range that you have, or the same network topology that you have defined within your corporate network and that of the cloud within a VPC. And you can use, it's essentially best of both the worlds. Just last year, this year, essentially we released a very important offering for enterprise customers called Direct Connect, which is essentially a dedicated network connectivity to our data center. So if you have connectivity to some of our registered Direct Connect locations and have a direct MPLS line, you will be essentially able to get a 10 gig connection right from that network to Amazon Web Services Cloud, so you can have complete faster connectivity to your data center. So what is VPC? So VPC is a logically isolated environment. It's a network isolation layer. You define the IP address range. You map it directly to that of the corporate network. You have the complete control of your environment and your network topology. You can define several network ACLs to ensure that your security groups are connected. I'll talk about security groups in a little bit of detail later. You can define, you can run elastic load balancers. You can run EC2 instances on that instance. And then once you have your 10.IP address range defined and your subnets defined, you will be able to quickly launch EC2 instances within that subnet and have 10.IP address for that EC2 instance. If you would like to connect VPN from your corporate network to that of the cloud, you can take advantage of the VPN gateway and connect that with an IPsec tunnel between them, or open VPN connections. There are different ways in which you can create a VPC environment. You can create VPC environment with a single public subnet. You can create with public and private subnets. You can create internet and VPN access, which is connecting from your corporate network to a VPN between your corporate network and that of the cloud. And there are a variety of different ways you can configure your VPC and your network things. Let's just see one single example. One of our customers have actually done this, and I see this as a new enterprise IT network architecture that leverages the cloud. So you have your corporate network, you have Amazon in a web services region. Each region consists of multiple availability zones, which are essentially fault-tolerant zones, different data centers, as you can say. You can have a VPC span across multiple availability zones and have your EC2 instances span across multiple availability zones as well, so that you can create high availability environments. You can connect your customer gateway, simple BGP routers, and connect that to the VPN gateway and have your connectivity assigned. You can create different public and private subnets. Private subnets are essentially like your corporate network that don't share anything outside of the VPC, while public subnets are similar to your DMZ, where they have an ability to connect to the network outside of your to the general internet. So you can create up to a network internet gateway and take leverage some of our distributed services that Amazon offers with regards to S3, SimpleDB, email, SQS, and so forth. You can connect multiple branch offices or partner offices to the same VPN gateway, and you can have direct connect locations right from your corporate network to your VPC and have dedicated connection directly to the cloud. So this is a new network architecture that I see being used by our enterprise customers. So one of my case studies and one of my favorite case studies here is Autodesk. Autodesk is using the cloud as an extension of their existing data center. They have 3 data centers today, Switzerland, East Coast, and West Coast, and they now have a 4th data center with essentially VPC, where they are having they are extending their existing network footprint, the database footprint, as well as storage footprint by using a VPC in the cloud. The other customer which I really love talking about is New York Times. Most of you might already know, who are following this cloud space, that in way back in June of 2008, one of the chief architects in New York Times came up with an idea. He had a project in mind that he wanted to convert articles from the year 1851 to 1922. These are TIFF images that he had to convert from to searchable PDF files. There were around 11 million articles, 4 terabytes of data that they had to convert. He went to his senior management to ask for resources. The senior management came back saying, okay, this is a great project. We will sign off on 3 servers that you can run for a period of 1 year. We can provide you and it will be available within several months, so you can take advantage of that. Obviously, chief architect was smart. He and was also cloud aware. So what he ended up was essentially running just within, he spun up 100 EC2 instances for a period of 24 hours, converted that 11 million articles, 4 terabytes of data into 1.5 terabytes of finished PDF files using all open source technologies, and he actually did that entire work within 24 hours, crunching all that data by leveraging the cloud infrastructure. As you can see, the time that it would have taken for that chief architect has reduced from a period of 1 year to 1 day, which is dramatic, which is essentially the best time saving as well as time to market to launch new products. And today, this particular service is a live paid subscription service on NY Times if you go to timesmachine.nytimes.com. This was, again, way back in 2008. Today, 2011, I stole this slide from one of the New York Times presentations that they did earlier at the AWS Summit, where you can see they started off with a basic proof of concept of converting TIFF to PDF files. They quickly understood the value that the cloud provides, and now you can see that they have an ability. They're growing their EC2 footprint from very quickly. They from 5% to 40% of their entire server footprint is now running on the cloud, and this is New York Times running mission-critical workloads onto the cloud. That said, it's also important to understand the cost. So they came up with understanding how EC2 actually also, while if it is 40% of the actual footprint, the total operational cost of that data center is just 26%. So this is extremely important to understand, that you have the ability to scale up and ability to scale down while keeping your operational cost low. So key takeaways here is you can leverage the cloud as an extension of your existing data center and take advantage of some of the cloud offerings available today. The third takeaway, which is really understanding the security and the compliance. Cloud has matured to a level that now you can run highly mission-critical applications in the cloud such a way that you can define the security levels and the protocols that you need, just like you do in your existing data center. And that's the reason there are several government customers running government workloads which have specific compliance and governance needs in the cloud as well. So it's important to understand the security or the cloud security in general, because I believe lots of people might have lots of concerns related to cloud related to security when it comes to the cloud ever. So it really is important to understand that in the cloud, security is a shared responsibility. Anything below the hypervisor down to the concrete will be responsibility of the cloud service provider, in this case Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services have really worked hard to get all the certifications it's required. For example, it's PCI level, DSS 2.0 level 1 compliant. You can run credit card workloads on EC2, S3, VPC, and other services. It's ISO 27001 and 2 certified, has a complete SAS 70 or Type 2 audit, which we can make it available to customers who need it. And it has FISMA level, a high and moderate for government style workloads. The beauty about this is, even though you don't have these compliance needs or security needs, you still get the same security that's available. You don't have to pay anything extra to get additional security protocol. Security is not an optional thing. It's baked in to everything that we do. So these are the responsibility of the cloud vendors, as well as there are a variety of different things and services and features available that you can leverage based on your specific requirements. Security is not 0 or 1. Security is a spectrum of things that you have to do in order to make sure that your application is secure, not just at the perimeter level, but also at the architecture level and the network level and so forth. So you can take advantage of identity and access management policies. You can rotate your keys. You can leverage several security features. You can run encryption in transit, encryption at rest. You can run encrypted file systems on EC2 and make sure that your environment is particularly secure. And from the application side, it is really the responsibility of the application developer. So you can encrypt your data in transit, you rotate your particular keys, you secure your application, and so forth. And together, by leveraging all these 3 basic things, you will be able to ensure that you have high secure environment in the cloud. There are a variety of different enterprise security features available, as I talked about earlier, like identity and access management services, which allows you to do policy-based granular access control and federation for each of your users within your account. We have several different services like ACL and bucket policies, and you define the security groups. Security groups are essentially you defining the ingress traffic of ports, protocols, and IP addresses that have access to that particular EC2 instance, for example. Also, just a few months ago, we released server-side encryption, AES 256-bit encryption on S3. You don't really have to do anything here, but just to turn on the flag, so Amazon will encrypt the data behind the scenes, rotate the keys for you, as well as do the encryption that you need, so you know that your data is highly secure and encrypted in a fashion that only you have access to decrypt it as well. If you don't want to use these services, you can encrypt the data yourself with the keys that you have to that you manage yourself, and then upload it to S3 as well, and download it. And when you decrypt it, you can download it back. There are a variety of different business models and purchasing types today available. I'm not going to go into more detail, but there are on-demand EC2 instances, reserved instances where you pay upfront and your overall cost reduces by 50%, up to 50%. there are a variety of different ways you can bid for spot instances, using bid for prices for spot instances, and even further reduce your cost of running your application workload. And then there are dedicated instances for highly regulatory compliant workloads where you don't want any other customer to run on the same physical box. You can spin up dedicated instances so only you and your customer and your departments or your company can launch virtual instances on that same physical host. I understand from security side, there is a variety of different questions, but from a compliance need, there are different concerns as well, right, from a customer, and we totally understand from an enterprise perspective what it would need. So in this scenario, there are several different questions that might arise, and I would like to point you to Amazon Web Services Security Center, which is going to answer all of these questions in 2 white papers, the security white paper as well as the risk and the compliance white paper, which will address all these questions for you. Amazon itself uses Amazon Web Services, and I'm really proud about this particular project where they have moved the entire corporate intranet, which is running mission-critical workloads, highly sensitive data for the company, running in the cloud. And we got several different benefits out of this offering. The complete architecture is available, the step-by-step way of how we actually moved in the SharePoint application to the cloud using all the different services in a white paper that I highly recommend you to read. It talks about in detail the business aspect as well as the technical architecture. This white paper is available at this URL, and you can also get lots of white papers at architecture from our architecture center, as well as several white papers at our white paper detail page. So understanding security is extremely important, and this is my third takeaway with the cloud. The cloud security has matured to a level that now you can run highly mission-critical applications in the cloud. The last takeaway that I have is migrating to the cloud, and there is this myth that I hear about and I talk and see often is if I cannot move all my applications all at once, cloud is not for me. And that's really a myth because it's not all or nothing. It's parts of something. You really have to move the low-hanging fruits first, and then gain advantage, gain confidence, gain some level of expertise, and then you will quickly realize that other applications can also take advantage of that offering. So one of the cloud and the cloud adoption trends that we are seeing in case of migration is the newer applications are being built with the cloud-ready design from the ground up, so that they can take advantage of some of the cloud benefits that it provides. At the same time, for existing applications, there is a 2-part strategy. You will find some applications within your application infrastructure or your IT asset base that they are simply no-brainer to move. You can quickly forklift those applications right away, and because Amazon Web Services offers infrastructure as a service, you can simply copy and paste the code and it will work. But in order for certain COTS types of application which are very shrink-wrapped, they don't have an ability to take advantage of the cloud distributedness as well as elasticity, you have a planned phased migration approach. So what we are seeing today is some of the examples that you can take advantage of the cloud offerings, the cloud infrastructure is cloud-ready applications. These are simple dev test applications, self-contained applications, pre-sales demo pipelines, and so forth. For example, SAP is running their customer workshops and customer training portals as well as pre-sales demo workshops on using AWS Cloud infrastructure. And they are growing at a very fast speed, essentially leveraging all the cloud infrastructure for their on-demand needs. and this is again SAP as a customer of how SAP is leveraging some of the services, and you can see one of the chart on the right. These are 120,000 instance hours that they have used as of November of 2010, and all of these are different applications that today SAP runs on AWS. So how we are seeing today customers and enterprises leveraging the cloud is, they are really classifying their IT assets and understanding their individual needs. For example, application assets, all applications don't have the same needs or same requirements. Some are top secret, public data sets. Some are low, medium, and high compliance requirements. Some are internal only, while partner only. And we advise and recommend customers to really shortlist and stack rank them in a way so that you can identify applications that have immediate business need to scale. And you can stack rank them. The applications which are difficult to move are not off the list, but they are just down the list. So you are moving your applications that are easier to move first, and understanding and gaining experience, and then moving your applications other applications later on. And that's what we are seeing today with customers doing, that they are picking up these simple web applications, batch processing systems, content management system, digital asset management systems, and so forth, and then identifying their application and then moving that part of the application in order to lower the risk that they think they have. And this is the strategy and the trend that we are seeing with almost all of our enterprise customers today. And there is a great white paper that I would highly recommend that walks you through all these different phases, from cloud assessment to running a proof of concept, as well as how you do data and application migration and leverage some of the cloud characteristics like auto scaling and automation and elasticity, and then continuously optimize your infrastructure so you further reduce your cost. So with that, I would like to kind of talk about these 4 basic takeaways and then hand it over to Ahmar. Ahmar is, I'm really proud to be here at this webinar because they are going to launch their Cloud Center of Excellence, as well as they are an expert in providing the services for migrating this application to the cloud. So Ahmar is DISYS is one of our solution providers, and over to you, Ahmar. This is it was great talking to you guys.
All right, thank you, Dinesh. I think I was muted, but again, DISYS. I thought I'd just do a quick introduction about DISYS. We are a IT services company that's focused on supporting clients as they build innovative products and services. 3 core areas of focus for us: managed services, consulting services, and IT staffing. We have about 220 customers, primarily large organizations that are spread around the world, and recently we've been highlighted as one of the fastest growing private firms in the market today. Fairly large organization, over 3,000 technologists that are spread out around the world. We do have a substantial focus, obviously, in North America, but pretty large operations in South America, Europe, and in Asia as well. Today, I'm actually fairly happy to be part of the Amazon Solution Services Provider Program that gives us the opportunity to bring additional exciting solutions to our customers. And as part of that activity, we have developed over the last several months our Cloud Computing Center of Excellence. And this has primarily been developed based on the relationships that we have had with our customers and the demands that they are seeing in terms of optimizing their IT spend. So they've come to us and said, well, how can you help us? And obviously, cloud computing, with all the flexibility that it provides, is one of the key areas. So within the Cloud Computing Center of Excellence, our focus is essentially on 4 core areas. One is to actually help clients migrate applications. The other is to utilize the cloud as a testing platform to test and develop applications. And the third one is similar to what Janesh had mentioned earlier. How do we utilize cloud as an extension to our clients' data centers? So primarily looking at it from an infrastructure perspective. And the third area that we focus on is really on cloud tools development. So our cloud computing is, a fantastic platform. Amazon provides a fair amount of tool sets, but there's an inherent requirement to be able to make the integration of clients' existing tools with the cloud-based infrastructure, and that's where we come in and help with either extend their existing tools or help develop point solutions that help our clients leverage the cloud much easier. As part of the Cloud Computing Center of Excellence, we do have the operations and management capabilities as well. So we'll help our clients not only sort of migrate to the cloud, but also be responsible for the operations of the cloud as well. And there's a full-blown team that supports that. And as well as, in addition to operations and management, we then also become responsible for making sure that from an ongoing perspective, the quality of their solution remains up to par, and we have teams that are constantly focused on continuous improvement of the cloud design that we've built for them, as well as continuous improvement of the processes that we are deployed to support our clients. Let me sort of jump in a little bit and talk a little bit more detail of about the specific solutions that we offer our customers today. The first one is the Cloud Assessment Service, and this is where we come in and look at our client's existing environment, determine a plan on how we could migrate to the cloud based on different applications, types of applications, determine which ones make sense, which ones don't make sense, and then come up with a plan. In some cases, we may do a complete forklift, move an entire sort of application environment onto the cloud, or do sort of a hybrid migration where part of the applications remain in customer's data center while others move on to the cloud. Once the assessment is sort of done, we look at sort of operationalizing it. So getting into a fair amount of detail on how you would automate the deployment into the cloud. How do you make sure that backups, restores are completely automated, they're functioning, and then how do you look at sort of optimizing the solution that's been deployed on the cloud. So one of the great advantages of utilizing the cloud is that the infrastructure is really on demand, and because it's so easy to assemble a lot of infrastructure very, very quickly, sometimes we tend to sort of go overboard and probably get infrastructure that's much more than we actually need. So it's a constant sort of exercise to go back and constantly profile the applications that are running on the cloud and make sure that they're correctly mapped to the underlying infrastructure. And then finally, the third area of service is on cloud management. So this is where we've migrated our clients onto the cloud, and then they're sort of asking us to manage the cloud environment for them. And that includes sort of the traditional operations activity like 24/7 management of the infrastructure, but also management of the applications as well. We also, as I mentioned earlier, utilize the cloud for a fair amount of testing activities for our clients. So we would actually leverage the cloud to execute test cases that we may have developed for them as part of the cloud solution development activity as well. One of the key sort of approach within the assessment side is to actually break up the assessment and make it sort of modular and granular, so that we are actually looking, fairly deeply into the client's existing environment, looking at classifying the existing applications, doing the technical assessment, but also doing a financial assessment, making sure that it does make sense for them to leverage public cloud infrastructure, and then from a financial standpoint, what's the most optimal model to deploy the applications. Once you've actually done that and defined sort of a short list of applications, then we spend a fair amount of time in looking at, what is the appropriate architecture that makes sense for this deployment. Janesh mentioned a lot of very powerful components that Amazon provides. So not only sort of the compute infrastructure, but then you have the ability to utilize the content distribution network. You have the ability to utilize a fairly scalable storage environment, but then you also have the capability to utilize that same environment in multiple locations to provide you almost inherent disaster recovery and business continuity capabilities. So as we look at the architecture development, those are sort of the things that we analyze. And another key area of that is that which sets of applications sort of reside within a VPC base or a private network within the public cloud. So building the profiles for those applications and then the architecture for those specific applications also gets done during the cloud architecture development phase. Then we move on to the proof of concept, deploy a set of applications, make sure that our initial assumptions make sense. And if everything looks good, then we actually go and do a full-scale migration of applications onto the cloud. And again, we don't want to stop there. We do want to make sure that once we've migrated applications onto the cloud, we've not necessarily created another total environment that is totally different from the client's existing infrastructure and their management capability of that infrastructure. So we do spend a fair amount of time in harmonizing the tools that are required to manage the environment, and then we'll deploy those tools, and then finally sort of package the runbook that's associated with managing the environment as well, and then deliver that to the customer. So again, the intent is that we want to make sort of the migration to the cloud fairly seamless, but then also make the operation and management of the infrastructure once it is in the cloud fairly seamless as well. And then finally coming back and optimizing. And that's a very important aspect of our cloud assessment activities that we do, is to make sure that once the infrastructure has been migrated, we are constantly looking at optimizing it both from a performance perspective as well as from a cloud perspective as well. Some of the use cases, and I know Janesh touched on those as well, some of the easier ones that are easy to sort of implement and deploy revolve around testing, development, and staging environments. So pretty much all our customers have applications that they're building, or they have commercial sort of applications like SAP for which they need a test and development environment. Those sort of can be easily set up on the cloud. Those applications, because actually they're not in a production mode, can be seamlessly deployed onto the cloud. The developers and the testers can actually utilize that platform. And the good part is that as soon as that particular project is done, you can shut down the entire infrastructure and not have additional recurring costs associated with it. And a few of these other ones are listed here. I'll just take one or two of them. One of them is really sort of the large-scale hosting opportunities. So pretty much all our customers have fairly robust public marketing websites. You'll have pharmaceuticals that may potentially have websites for each one of their medicines that they're putting out in the market, or media-oriented websites that may have, or media-oriented companies that may have websites for each one of their labels that they're carrying. So aggregating all those websites, because they're customer-facing and marketing-facing, we can put them up on the cloud, utilize the content distribution capabilities that are provided by Amazon, as well as a fair flexibility of being able to ramp up bandwidth requirements on an on-demand basis. So some of those applications make really good sense to migrate onto the cloud as well. This is fairly a short introduction to some of the services. We welcome any questions that you may have. But to kind of wrap it up, I'll sort of hand it over to Janesh, and then we have probably 2 or 3 questions that we can address for our clients before we have to wrap up.
Sure.
So Janesh, would you like to wrap up?
Yeah, so thank you, Ahmar. Essentially, the key takeaways from this presentation is, flexibility is the key for AWS, and AWS gives you the flexibility that you need. You have to leverage extend your existing data center, leverage some of the cloud benefits, by using VPC. Now, cloud security has matured to a level that now you can run massively mission-critical, highly sensitive data applications run in the cloud. For migrating in the cloud, there is a step-by-step process for your applications that are not being designed for the cloud, and DISYS can help you here. As well as there are applications where you can simply forklift your and move them as well. So DISYS can actually really help you accelerate some of the some of these applications and their journey to the cloud as well. So with that, I would like to open up for questions. I'm sorry we are a little bit over 10 o'clock, but since we started late, I would love to take some questions that you might have. And also, Ahmar, if you can bring up the email so they can contact us later on. In the next slide, you can contact us at email if you have any other questions.
Sure, Dinesh, I will do that. So one of the questions that we have is for AD integration with the AWS Identity and Access Management System. So the question was, can you integrate your AD with the IAM and do the profiles tend to carry over from the corporate AD?
Yes, so the answer to that is yes, but not through IAM, but through what we offer as a identity federation service. Each of these identity federation services essentially takes advantage of IAM users, and you can create these temporary tokens that can leverage the LDAP repositories and their authentication with your corporate network. There is a white paper on our white paper detail page that talks in detail. If you are a Windows Server shop, then how you can take advantage of Active Directory file services. And it's a 40-page white paper that talks about single sign-on and other different ways in which you can authenticate your users. So please take advantage of that, as well as leverage some of the identity federation services for your LDAP repositories and Active Directory repositories.
Hey, Dinesh, another question is on sort of VMware workloads and how do you sort of migrate them onto Amazon?
Excellent question. And sorry I didn't cover that in detail, but there is a service especially just to move your VMware workloads that are Windows Server, that's running Windows Server 2003 or 2008. And you can use this service called what we call VM import. You can find that more details on the Amazon Web Services website, aws.amazon.com/VM import. What this essentially does is it takes your VMDK files and then runs it through our service, while our service will launch the necessary compute nodes and the storage nodes, provision the data as well as the infrastructure, and then boot up that entire infrastructure on Zen infrastructure today with EC2 and completely configured the way your VMDK files were configured in your data center. We also are working on an export service, so you will be able to take advantage of some of the existing infrastructure that EC2 runs and then export it out to a variety of different formats. Today we offer VMDK, but there are other image formats that also we are considering. So today it's VM import, which is live and available that you can take advantage of it. In future there will be lots of other image formats as well as export functionality coming up.
Hey Dinesh, thank you. Another question is on auto-scaling. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what can be used to trigger auto-scaling and how that sort of works.
Excellent question. Thank you very much. These are, again, excellent questions. So auto-scaling is one of my favorite services and why cloud really shines when it comes to auto-scaling. Everything is an API. Everything is a service. And hence you can configure your application such that you create an auto-scaling group. Within an auto-scaling group, you can spin up EC2 instances and assign that auto-scaling group to that instances. And you can specify your upward threshold and your downward or your lower threshold. These thresholds are essentially things like any metric that you are measuring. For example, CPU utilization, network I/O, RAM, or disk I/O, and so forth. And based on that, you can specify within the auto-scaling launch configuration that I want to automatically start EC2 instances if that threshold is met. The example is, typically customers do is, if I set my CPU utilization to 85% and above, and if it stays there for 3 minutes, I want to automatically start new EC2 instances, connect that to the load balancer, and route the new request directly to these new instances that have come up, and then also scale back down when they meet the lower threshold, so you save on cost. There are lots of presentations and webinars online available that discusses auto-scaling in detail. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out to me at jwarrior@amazon.com, and I will point you to the right architecture details for auto-scaling there.
Thanks, Dinesh. There's one other question, and it was, have we had the opportunity to look at migrating any workloads that might be utilizing Unix or AIX LPARs?
Yeah, so there are some customers today like MicroStrategy and others who run simulation environments for AIX and mainframes. But typically, my recommendation would be not to choose those as the applications for your initial proof of concept, because they will require a little bit of re-architecture and refactoring in order to work on an x86 virtualized environment. So typically moving low-hanging fruits which are self-contained, they can run in a Java or PHP or any of the standard stacks available, and then move them quickly and gain experience, and move the other ones later on, which might be convoluted and dependent on your existing services. But you can absolutely run them. In a virtualized setup, there might be certain things that you might have to change, some of the network protocols that might have to change as well. But if this is a simple Java application that you are running in the AIX environment, you might be able to run it in a simple Tomcat environment within EC2.
Okay, thank you, Dinesh. So I think we are done here. I'll just hand it over to Angela for some final wrap-up notes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahmar.
So sorry, Dinesh. We really appreciate your information today, Dinesh. Thank you. Thank you, Ahmar. We appreciate hearing about what DISYS's contribution will be as a solution partner, solution provider for Amazon Web Services. And I just want to let everyone know that we will be emailing you a link to the webinar recording for today. So if there was anything you missed or you'd like to see in more depth, you'll have the slide deck as well as the recording so that you can follow up with Ahmar or Dinesh as your time permits. Thanks so much, everyone, for attending and for your participation. We appreciate it so much. Bye-bye. Have a great day.